Welcome to my Facebook Live Addiction Recovery Support Group. We were supposed to be on last night, but I had so much going on, I didn't get a chance to do it. So hopefully, people will join me today. And I'm going to follow along on my Facebook on my phone so that I can check for comments. So if anyone's coming on or anyone watches later, welcome. Okay, hopefully my sound's working. So let me just go over our introduction really quick. So this Facebook Live is sponsored by the Sandhills Opioid Response Consortium, and it's a forum where people in recovery can come together. We are here to encourage and support other people in their recovery by sharing our own experience, strength, and hope. We have different peers that come on each day on this page, A New Way to Recover. So typically I'm on Monday, but I'm doing it on Tuesday this time. But anyway, if anyone has any questions or comments or wants to contribute to the conversation, please do it in the comment box. I would love that. Usually we do devotionals, we do daily readings, meditations, and open discussion. So if you do share, just of course, please be polite and considerate of other people. So today I wanted to talk about getting upset, right? Because that is hard. When you get upset, all these emotions come. And when you're talking about people in recovery or people that struggle with addiction, that can be a huge problem for them, including myself, because I'm in recovery too. So, um, basically, everyone gets upset. Everybody at some point gets upset, and some people get more upset than others, and some people get upset much easier than others. And like I was saying, getting upset can be a dangerous thing in recovery. It can cause you to go back to using drugs. It can cause you to go back to drinking, having an episode where you're really upset. It tends to come out of feelings of like frustration, feeling annoyed, disappointed, hurt. Being upset can come from having a sense of being wronged or treated unfairly. Or if someone else is being wronged or treated unfairly, that can make you upset. People challenging you, or if something that we think is unfair happens, it can cause us to be upset. And I think as people get older and more mature, they tend to be able to handle being upset a little better, because as you live life more and more, and you experience different upsetting situations, you know, people naturally become wiser and more experienced with handling stress in difficult situations in life. And when you're talking about someone with an addiction, it's just not that simple. It's like when people use drugs, it stunts their emotional growth. And so the whole time that they're using, their emotional growth is not maturing. And so you're not growing emotionally when you're in active addiction. And when you stop using, you're basically back where you left off when you started using drugs. So like if I started using drugs at age 13 and I used on and off for 20 years, and then I finally get into a solid recovery, I may only be 15 or 16 years old emotionally when I finally get into recovery. So, when addicts get upset, they use drugs or alcohol to cope with those feelings. So they're not being forced to deal with reality like everyone else, and so they don't get that practice. And that can be a challenge for people in recovery, because when you get off the drugs, all those emotions and stress can feel it comes flooding back, and you can have trouble dealing with it. And that buffer that you enjoyed is no longer there to protect you emotionally. And so stress and all these emotions can feel exaggerated and really intense. I know that's how it was for me, because I was always taking Xanax. Anytime I got upset, really upset, I take a Xanax. So of course I didn't have to naturally calm myself down. So when that's gone, that buffer is gone, those emotions are in your face and it's uncomfortable. And so it's really tempting when you're upset to go out and use to make yourself feel better or to calm down. But then when you do that, that's only a temporary fix. And now you've not only had a huge setback, but you still have to learn how to cope with your emotions. So, what can people in recovery do to help when they get upset? And I think for me, it's all about coping skills, self awareness, and attitude adjustment. And, our first reaction when we get upset, everyone's different, but you either lash out, blame others, you might storm off, feel like you're going to get even, ignore the whole thing, or avoid the person or the stressful situation altogether. You might blame other people, or even like turn it inward and condemn yourself. And when you get upset, you physically get upset. A lot of times, your blood pressure goes up, your heart's beating, you have these strong feelings of anger or hurt, and you can even like start shaking or yelling or crying. It's intense, and I know for me, being in active addiction for so many years and so early on in life, I realized that I needed to play catch up emotionally, and so now when I get upset, I know that the first thing I need to do is wait before I react. I need to stop and let my initial emotions kind of level off before I decide how to react, or I need to find a way to get away from the upsetting situation. Um, or maybe I need to decide how I want to look at the situation. And that's what I mean when I say an attitude adjustment. Am I looking at this the right way? Is this as serious as I think it is, or is that just those raw emotions? Am I being fair in how I choose to see this situation? Am I expecting too much from this person? Am I maybe overreacting? Did I play a part in the situation that I need to take responsibility for? Am I putting too much expectation on this person or the situation? And if not, then am I really upset because I'm frustrated or maybe I'm overwhelmed? I mean, all those things can manifest in being upset. It can be all different kinds of things. So, what's the best way to handle this without losing my peace or doing something I'll regret later? Those are the kinds of things that I try to think about when I find myself upset, or is this person even worth me getting upset over? If somebody cuts me off in traffic, is it worth it for me to lose my peace over what someone else is doing? Or maybe is this person trying to get me upset for some reason? And if they are, maybe it has more to do with them personally than with me, and it's not worth it for me to get upset. I think you have to pick your fights. I think that's really important. You don't want to just react to every single thing. You got to like pick and choose, because you only have so much emotional, energy each day. Um, so I think for me, being self-aware is something that really helps me when I think about being upset. So let me go over a few other tips for dealing with upsetness. One thing you can do that works is step away. Sometimes the best thing you can do is step away, don't react, get away and cool off, or let them cool off. and take yourself out of risky or dangerous or stressful situations. Maybe don't put yourself in a position to get upset in the first place. Of course, we can't always help it. Sometimes it just happens spontaneously. But, if you know that going to this one place or being at this place at a certain time is going to be stressful, don't think you can go into it and not be affected. You will be affected. You know, something else you can do is let go of what you can't control. And that was a big one for me, because there's really no sense in being upset about something that you can't do anything about. And my motto is, do what you can and trust God for the rest. If there's nothing you can do about something, sometimes we just need to accept that. Fake it till you make it. And this is one that you hear a lot in the recovery community. Even if you're torn up inside, sometimes the best way to handle a stressful or chaotic situation is just smile, say the least that you have to in a nice tone of voice, and get the hell out of there, you know? That way, you didn't lose it, you didn't blow your top or freak out, and, you can process whatever happened later when you had time to kind of unwind and think about it. So in the moment, just ride it out, get out of there, and then, kind of process it later. Another thing you can do that sometimes I do is talk to yourself. Just quietly tell yourself in that stressful situation, I got this, or I'm calm, I'm not going to freak out. That sometimes can help because, you believe what you say more than what anyone else says. Breathe. And that's so cliche, but it really works. If you are like really, really, really upset and you can stop and just focus on your breath, that focusing away from the situation gives you a few moments to focus on something else. And that lets your heart rate kind of slow down. Um, don't react out of emotion. Excuse me. Do you mind? Which is easier said than done, and I'm still working on this one, not acting out of emotion or reacting out of emotion. But a lot of people that I see who struggle with addiction, they are really like sensitive people who have strong emotions. And if you allow yourself to act on those emotions, it can cause you more problems. So I always try to remember that emotions are fickle, they come and go. And if you can ride it out, it will more than likely pass. Try to think about the situation logically. What are the facts here? And how much of this is just pure emotion? And do I really need to allow myself to get so upset that I lose control? Um, Decide whether you are truly upset or just having anxiety. And I don't mean just having anxiety. Anxiety is a big thing. And, a lot of people in early recovery can feel like overstimulated, and that can lead to anxiety. And the thing with anxiety is if you can identify it, then at least you know what you're dealing with and you can take the steps to cope with it. Count to 10, slow breathing, praying, meditating, journaling. If you can practice ways to calm down before you're in an upsetting situation, you'll kind of know what works best for you. And you can kind of take those coping mechanisms and put them in your tool belt. And that way you have them with you all the time. Um, I think sometimes when we get upset, it's because smaller things have been building, or there's things under the surface that we aren't dealing with. And so as more things happen, it piles on and you get more and more and more upset. So I think it's definitely not good to push your feelings down or ignore them because that can build up inside you. Um, and I always talk about journaling because journaling, It sounds tacky, but getting a notebook out and just start writing. Just start writing your thoughts down. They don't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be, in a freaking, perfect letter. It can just be no one's ever going to read it. Just get it out, and that can help you get to the bottom of why you might be upset in the first place and kind of help you process it and get it out. Um, Remember that other people have things going on with them too. And sometimes they might be expecting too much of you, or we might be expecting too much of them. So I think cutting some slack to yourself and other people is always a good idea. Then later on, if you get upset, talk about it with somebody. Bounce the situation off someone you trust and see what they think about it. They may have some insight into it that you don't, or they may have some ideas on what to do that you didn't consider. And then finally, be proud of yourself every time you deal with being upset in a healthy way. Because the more you handle stress, the more you can handle stress. And you will get better at it the more practice that you have. So that's all I have for today. And I hope that somebody somewhere gets something out of it. Have a good night, y'all, and happy Thanksgiving.